First of all, dear listeners, you are welcome for the daily poetry analysis, and today I have brought to you a poem known as Life is Tremulous. Life is Tremulous by a Botswanan poet and playwright who is somebody, uh, Albert GTK Malikongwa. Albert GTK Malikongwa. This poem here, of course, is made up of 30 verses, so it is long compared to the ones we have already analyzed. So, first of all, let me recite it, then we will proceed with our daily tasks of trying to analyze it. Starting with the citation now. Remember, these poems, of course, also are from Growing Up with the Poetry by David Rubadiri, a man from Malawi. So, these poems, of course, were corrected by this man, David Rubadiri. So, let me also try to read this poem loudly, then I will try to analyze it in terms of form and content as the main elements of literature. So the title is Life is Tremulous. Life is tremulous like a water drop on a muffin tree. My body is wrinkled, my hair gray, the talk is bushmen everywhere. I'm called a nobody, a race of alleged filthy people who cannot clean their floors, whose blanket is the fire, who spit and sneeze freely everywhere, whose bodies smell of root ointment, or like a cowhide soaked in the river water. My countrymen call me names. I'm torn between life and death, propped between freedom and slavery. My tears glide in pairs down my cheeks. My hands shake because of old age. I'm no more than a refugee, a loafer they say, yet others loaf too whilst other men work. It is true I do not worry for lunch, as birds do not worry for the years too. To me, the delights of knowledge and the pomp of power are anathema. Life is tremulous like drops of water on a muffin leaf. My countrymen eat, drink, and laugh. I and my fellow men and the women sleep under trees, in caves, or open ground. We starve, we can no longer hunt freely. Life is a scourge, a curse. It is tremulous like a drop of water on a muffin leaf. That is the end of citation. As I have said that this poem, of course, was composed by Albert GTK Malikongwa, a man from Botswana. So this poem here talks about, of course, people who have been forced to leave their old homes and who feel like outsiders or exiles who do not really belong in the places they are living now in. So there are some things which make them feeling as if they are outsiders and they feel as exiles. There are things as this poet has tried to analyze. Maybe it is because Albert, as we said, that he worked as a teacher for 13 years, and also Albert also studied about public administration. Public administration in York University. So maybe because he's experienced about public administration and problems that do people face, like sending people to exiles and etc., etc., maybe is the causes of this poem. And remember, this poem, of course, the main theme being talked about, as we have seen here, there are people who are blaming because of being loneliness, because of separation. So we are continuing with of course, trying to analyze poems talking about separations. So because when we want to analyze poems, first of all, as we have already seen, the summary of this poem is better we now try to analyze one element to another, starting with the form. This poem, as I have said, is made up, if you count the number of verses, there are about 30 verses. 30 verses. And the type of this poem is said to be modern poem because it is not strictly adhered to the rules of forming traditional poems. So the language, when we talk of language used in this poem, of course the language used is simple. We can say it is simple, and of course the title of this poem as well is direct, because what is summarized in the title, of course, resembles with what is being talked about in the poem, because the title is Life is Tremulous. Life is tremulous. If life is tremulous, tremulous means trembling or quivering or shaking. So life is shaking. Once you are in exile, you tend to see that life is not stable. So what are being talked about here are not stable. For instance, people are sleeping under trees, people are starving, yes, people are using the firewoods as blankets. So life, of course, is not as stable as people may be. So the language used, of course, as I said, is simple and clear. Apart from that, apart from the language, also we can comment on the use of figures of speech in this poem. As we have seen here, that figures of speech used here are so many. For instance, there is use of simile. Remember, simile is the figure of speech whereby two dissimilar things are compared by using words like, resemble to, as, etc., etc. So here, if you look at the first verse, the persona says, life is tremulous like a water drop on a muffin tree. So here, life is tremulous like a water. So here, life is compared with the water drop. Is compared with the water drop by using the word like. So that is a simile. And this, of course, is used to show how people are not, of course, enjoying their lives. Rather, their lives are trembling. That's why say life is tremulous like a water drop on a muffin tree. And also, apart from simile, not only that, but also there are also another simile, that it is true that if you look clearly, there is a certain word where the poet has said that it is true, I do not worry for lunch as birds do not worry for theirs too. So the persona is not worrying for the lunch, as he or she thinks that maybe even birds do not worry for the what? For the life they live. That's why we say also that is a simile, because try to compare two lives, the life of birds and the life of these people who think that they are living in exiles or in bushes. Not only that, but also there is use of imagery. In this poem, there is use of imagery like sleep under trees, in caves, or open ground. You create a mental picture that you see. You try to imagine, where do these people live? In caves, open places where, of course, there is no what? There is no defense and security, of course. You may feel if you are, of course, good-hearted, you can feel that how do these people live? Things like that. Not only that imagery, but also apart from this, also there is the use of countrymen drink, eat, and laugh. But for us, we normally use what we call okay, another figure of speech used here is what we call a metaphor. Remember, metaphor is the figure of speech whereby two dissimilar things are compared without using words like, as, resemble to, etc., etc. So here there is the use of a statement like, life is a scourge, a case. Life is a scourge, a case. So life is compared to scourge, or a case without using such words or such conjunctions. That's why we say that that is the metaphor. Not only that, but also there is the use of allusion. Remember, allusion, you normally try to think about well-known words or well-known saying, and you try to relate with what you are talking about. That's, you can say that is direct reference. You refer to what is well known. For instance, in the stanza, the persona says, "It is true, I do not worry for lunch, as birds do not worry for the years too." This can refer to what Jesus said in Dispose, when he said that, what are you worried about? You may think about birds. They do not have den, they do not have enough food, but the Father who art in heaven make them to eat. That's what this man now, of course, tried to refer to. That it is true, I do not worry for lunch, as birds do not worry for the years too. That is allusion. It is a direct what? Direct comparisons of well-known sayings or well-known things. Those are a part of figures of speech. But of course, apart from this is all about what? Form. Apart from form, now we can talk about content. And the content, remember, here we are just talking about themes, messages, and lessons, as well as relevance. Starting with the themes or thematic analysis. In themes here, we can find different themes. The main theme in this poem is separation. And this separation, remember, is caused by sending people to exiles. People for exiles. People for exile, separation. But another theme is lack of hygiene, as we have seen in the 5th up to 9 stanza. 5th up to 9 stanza. 5th up to 9 stanza says that, "I'm called a nobody, a less of ragged filthy people who cannot clean their floors, whose blanket is the firewood, who spit and sneeze freely everywhere, whose bodies smell of root ointment, or like a cowhide soaked in the river water." These verses try to indicate that, of course, these people lack hygiene because they are in exiles in bushes. Not only that, but also there is lack of freedom, as we can see for the last 3 verses, which says, "We start